They say that the eyes are the window to the soul. While this may be true, I believe more strongly in its inverse, that windows are the eyes of the soul. If you walk around Marshall's campus past the vast array of buildings, you'll pass innumerable windows, allowing us a glimpse into the classes and living spaces of the people who live in the university. My windows are the centerpiece of my dorm room. I keep my bed pressed up against them, and I've decorated my sills with pictures, cards, rosaries, and a hanging piece of stained glass. Every morning, I start my day by waking up and silently observing through my open window the world, and allowing the world and other passers-by to observe me. If you are an outsider looking in, you can see a lot about my internal life from the outside. For this reason, it's no wonder that authors such as Virginia Woolf would use windows as a literary device for examining the internal spaces of their characters. Alan Johnson writes in his article, "The doors would be taken off their hinges, space, place, and architectural absence in Virginia Woolf. Both Mrs. Dalloway and To the Lighthouse focused their attention initially on the spaces of domestic life before moving to examine the black holes of architecture, doors, windows, interior voids, and the powerful memories of experiences in a house." Characters' thoughts, opinions, memories, their stream of consciousness can be viewed by us as a reader the same way you can learn about someone by peeking through the window into their bedroom. I wanted to focus on the works of Woolf, specifically the two works noted by Johnson, Mrs. Dalloway and To the Lighthouse, and I wanted to do it through distant reading, using online resources such as Lexos and Voyant to track how many times the word windows appears in each novel, and how this relates to the plot progression of both works. I ultimately found that I enjoyed using Voyant much more than Lexos. Lexos got too wrapped up in technical jargon, and Voyant let me get straight to the results. Using Voyant, I first tracked the use of the word window in both texts through, of all things, a rolling window diagram. In both Dalloway and To the Lighthouse, the number of uses peaks in the first portion of the novel, then declines until climax and conclusion. This correlates with the plots of the text. In Dalloway, for instance, the first action taken in Mrs. Dalloway is Clarissa opening the French windows, and with her introduction there is an influx of usage of that word. In the final portions of the novel, Septimus similarly opens French windows and throws himself out of them, and there is a similar influx in the use of the word window, just as there was in the introduction of the characters. Next, I used the word cloud tool in Voyant. In a word cloud, the most frequently used words are gathered and displayed in such a way where the larger a word is, the more frequently said word occurs in the novel. Both novels use thoughts and memories as a structuring principle rather than strictly chronological storytelling, and have very similar word clouds to reveal this fact. In Mrs. Dalloway, the word cloud reveals the most frequent word to be Clarissa, thought, and said. To the Lighthouse reveals an identical trend. The top two words are Ramsay, thought, and said, and this reveals that not only are the two texts very similar at their core elements, but it also confirms that the novels are, at their essence, very centered around characters' internal reflections and conversations with others, rather than actions and plot devices. The final similarity found in a distant reading is that both texts use the word window roughly the same amount of times. In Mrs. Dalloway, which is 5,689 words shorter than To the Lighthouse, uses the word a total of 50 times, while in To the Lighthouse it uses it 58 times. Since the marginally longer text uses window only slightly more often, it can be roughly concluded that both texts use the word window the same amount of times. From this, we can conclude that windows are of equal importance in both texts, a conclusion which is in character to the other findings gleaned from a distant reading. To conclude, I used a distant reading to inform my already established close reading of To the Lighthouse and Mrs. Dalloway. Windows are the way we look into ourselves and into others, and Virginia Woolf is a master of the internal self and accessing that through windows as a structuring principle in her novels.